Hey everybody, today we're going to tie the Trow Minnow. It's a very simple, very fun, very quick bait fish pattern. Nice thing about it is, other than being extremely easy to tie, only features a couple materials, S-TAS for the body and a zonker strip or rabbit strip for the tail and the wing. So endless color options and combinations on this as well. We tie it from anywhere from a size 2 4X long streamer hook all the way down to maybe a size 6 streamer hook. Any of your favorite streamer hooks will work just fine. Signature Series mustads are great. A Tiemco 5263s, those are great as well. But very simple, very hardy pattern also. If you tie it properly, can withstand infinite amounts of abuse. And so we'll show you a couple little quirky tricks on how to get this thing done. All right, so we'll get started tying the Trow Minnow. First thing we're going to do is add some 25 thousandths lead wire to the shank of our hook. We're going to start back by the point, and we are going to wrap it forward. I like to coat the entire hook shank. I'm going to leave a little space up front just to tie off the head when we finish the fly. But you want about from the hook point to about 1/8 of an inch forward with lead. And then I'm going to put on our thread, which is just your standard Danville's flat wax nylon. Again, use it for most of the big nymphs and streamers that we tie. Build a little bit of a dam in front of the lead there. And again, bring it all the way back. Just cover up most of that lead body, so when you are palmering your S-TAS forward, it doesn't creep down in between and get stuck. Again, we're going to leave a little bit of a gap between the barb and the point of the hook. Now I'm going to add our tail in using black barred rabbit strip in Grizzly, which is a really great looking baitfish color. Goes well with the UV olive S-TAS. And what I'm going to do is, so we don't have a lot of waste, I'm just going to separate the skin, get the length of the tail that we want, about the length of the hook shank, and I'm going to pull the fibers back to expose the skin of the rabbit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay that right on top of where I want to tie it in, and I'm going to throw a loose wrap around it twice, orient the tail where I want it, and then pull snug. And here's a little trick I taught myself with rabbit quite a while ago. I'm actually going to progress forward with my thread. You can see how I'm holding those fibers forward, and I'm going to wrap forward until I butt up against those lead wraps. And then I'm going to take the material here, and I'm actually going to fold it back over itself and then wind back to the barb. And one of the reasons why we do this, I used to fish a lot of zonkers back in the late 80s, early 90s. And what would happen is the tooth of a trout could grab where that rabbit zonker was tied in and pop it, and then your tail was kind of free floating. So when you reverse tie that rabbit in, you don't see the actual thread wraps. You can't see, and so it's very difficult to lose or pop that tail from the main body. So just one of the quick little tip there. And also by doing this, you can see that we have a fairly symmetrical platform to tie our body on. There's no major lumps and bumps. S-TAS again is directional. We want the material to flow backwards on the fly, as you see there. And so I'm going to tie this material in. I'm going to pull a little bit of the fuzz off the end to expose the cord. I'm going to tie it in literally right here on the side. I'm going to wrap back until I hit that rabbit. I'm going to advance my thread forward again. I'm just kind of covering up any remaining lead that's on that fly. About 3/4 of the way forward, I'm just going to go ahead and you can throw a quick little whip finish or a half hitch to hold your thread in place. That's where we're going to tie off our rabbit and start the head of the fly. Again, when I'm tying S-TAs on a lot of flies, I go hand over hand, and as I'm doing that, I'm pulling the material back and putting a tremendous amount of pressure on that cord to really ensure that that material stays in place and does not shift forwards or backwards on that hook shank. And again, you can throw a little bead of glue down, Loctite or whatever glue you prefer in order to keep that from slipping as well. But if you put a lot of pressure on it, you'll be able to catch hundreds of fish. All right, so I'm butted up right against that thread, and I'm just gonna tie it off there. A couple more wraps in front, and I'm gonna leave the S-TAs in place. I'm just gonna kind of put it out of the way for a second. I'm gonna pull my rabbit strip forward, and what I'm gonna do is again tease some of that fur back. I'm gonna pull snug. Don't pull too hard because you could break the skin of the rabbit. But essentially I'm just gonna tie right where my last wraps of S-TAs were. And another little trick, whenever I'm cutting thicker material like rabbit, you see I'm going to cut back at an angle like a 45. That way when I'm tying that down, you don't have like a steep edge drop off where your thread can just fall off the end. Just makes a nice little progression forward. So now we have our tail tied in. You can't even see where the thread where it was tied in, all the way to the front. And now we can finish up with the S-TA's head. What I like to do here, in order to get that fly to really dart back and forth, is you want to pack as much S-TAs on the front of that fly as possible. Fish that with a loop knot, and every time you strip, that thing will dart left and right. Fishes really, really well. And so you can see I'm really cramming those thread wraps in. Sometimes what I will do, especially on the size 2 4X long ones, I will take 2 wraps forward and then I'll actually go backwards 1 wrap in between the two and almost double up the S-TAs on the head there. Certain S-TAs, when it's dyed, can be a little thicker or thinner as a result, and so you'll just have to kind of figure out as you're going forward how much material you want to put on. What you can't do with S-TAs is crowd the eye. The cord itself is extremely thick, and so once you reach the eye of the hook, you can't put too many wraps on, or you won't actually have enough real estate to get your thread down. A couple securing wraps in front. Come in here and pop that S-TAs and throw a knot on there, and she's pretty much done. I'll throw a whip finish on there, and you can finish with whatever glues you like. Come in and clean that head up a little bit, but there she is, Trow Minnow.